There are three things I found consistently in every successful small business. Of course, we all know sales, cash, employees, all those things are important. There's a laundry list of things that every small business needs, but I found three things that if you were to bundle these up, if you are wondering as a small business owner, what do I really need to be focusing on to get to the next level, to start scaling my business? I say there's three things. Number one is guiding principles. We got to have a North Star. We got to know where we want to go. We want to know where we're at, who we serve, why we serve. We got to have some metrics so that at the end of the quarter, the end of the year, month, week, whatever it is, if we know if we're going in the right direction. If we don't have any direction at all, it doesn't matter what we do. We have to be intentional, and we have to be intentional about why we do things and where we're trying to get. Number two is standard operating procedures, SOPs, which is what we're talking about today. So I'll skip that. I'll come back to that. Number three is people. Now, most of the time, small business owners will think of people as employees only. I say people of all humankind. As a small business owner, we typically work with vendors, professional services. So it's critical that we have a qualified professional cost accountant for our business. It's critical that we have a commercial banker with a personal relationship for our business, et cetera, et cetera. We also need to have suppliers. We have to have people that want to work with us. So when we need a favor or we're going through a downturn and we need some special pricing, whatever it is, we need people that want to help us succeed as well as us help them. We also need to know our clients. Our clients, the biggest, not the biggest, but one of the biggest areas of problems that most small business owners have is they get in the habit of saying yes because they don't know their ideal target client. And so they say yes to everybody. And then next thing you know, they have a book of list of challenging clients where some of them don't pay on time. So you're always in collections. You have some people that are always trying to knock down your price. You always have some that don't follow through and deliver, say, yes, be here at 10 and they're not there till 11:30, whatever it is. We want to have clients that are a fit for our business so we can both succeed and accomplish our goals of why they hired you to help them solve a problem. And then, of course, employees. That could be key management. That could be just hourly employees. That could be a temporary service. That could be VAs. So as you can see, it's a lot more than just employees. So let's go back to SOPs. What are SOPs? SOPs are standard operating procedures. Now, for most businesses, we have things that we do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, and so on. So, what are those repeatable tasks that you do in your business? Those things that the first time you had to figure it out. The second time, maybe you found a software that was an easier solution. The third time, maybe you found a software that was more affordable. The fourth time, maybe you found something else completely. You scrapped what you were doing, and so you started over with a new software. What happens is over time, if we don't do those things every day, we often forget what steps where. So did we do this? Did we go enter this information here first and then copy, paste, and drag? Or did we go over here, open this, drag, drop, do this, that, and another? And we find ourselves, especially solopreneurs, because they're the ones that often say, I'm not big enough for SOPs. And I'm like, yes, I've had both types of businesses, numerous of both sizes. Solopreneurs, it's just as important, just as critical, if almost not more than it is for an existing business. And the reason is for time management. So think about yourself. If you have a task that you only do quarterly, how many times do you remember the specific steps? There's usually a step or two, if not the whole thing, where you have to go back and trial and error, try to figure it out, trying to remember what you did. And when you're doing that with, let's say you have 6 quarterly tasks, how many hours is that costing you? Time management is critical as a solopreneur. The second reason it's important for a solopreneur is because eventually you're going to hire an employee. And when you hire an employee, you don't want to babysit an employee. You want to be able to show them the step-by-step process, onboard them, educate them, teach them, train them, and then have them refer to the SOPs so that you're not constantly having to engage with them. Another reason that they're important for not just solopreneurs, one of the most common is it's not as relevant today because a lot of companies don't have a telephone system like we used to, but back in the day, and I would say most small businesses today, they have some type of here's how we answer our phones. If you have a brick and mortar, you have a phone system. And when I see business owners, the first thing they usually do with an admin assistant is teach them the phone system. And admin assistants sometimes can be difficult to find one that's loyal, that's going to stick around forever. I have a company that I know of. I don't work with them, but I know of, and they've been through 4 in the last probably 3 months, just due to different reasons. It wasn't a fit for the employee's spouse got transferred, whatever the reason was. But the first thing they do is in that business is they train the admin assistant on how to use their phone systems. And I mentioned to them, to the business owner, I said, how many times have you trained somebody on that phone system in the last year? And they mentioned maybe 9 or 10. I said, if you took your cell phone and did a little tutorial of the answering, here's the button, whatever it is that you train them with, did it one time, and then trained them one time once they're on board, a brand new employee, showed them that video, and they can go back and refer to that. Like, how much time would that give you back? And I know that that's not the only thing that they train them with. They probably train them how to clock in, how to count up the hours, how to enter this, payroll, whatever it is. And if they were to take the time to just document it one time, how many hours that would save them? That goes for small business owners and solopreneurs. So, standard operating procedures are things that are repeated day to day, quarterly, weekly, that are relevant to the day-to-day operations of your business. Now, a lot of small business owners, we can get overwhelmed when someone even mentions that. One of the first questions I'm asked, probably more often than not, is where do I even start? We do a million things. And I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that some small business owners probably do a million things, or their business does. But what we're talking about are the things that are most often repeated, not the things that are done just once in a lifetime, not the things that are done just for this one employee or this one client. Now, sometimes those do need to be documented, but I don't want to get too detailed, too deep in the weeds on those things. We'll talk about those later in another video. This is for the small business owner that doesn't have SOPs. This is for the solopreneur that doesn't have SOPs. So we're kind of the beginning phase. Now, what does an SOP do? They provide consistency so that you're doing things the same way regardless of who's doing them. It makes things easier to accomplish. It makes things easier to focus on. They bring value and consistency. I often say if you were to tune a piano, you wouldn't tune a piano to another piano, and then that piano to another piano, and then a new piano to that piano. By the time you get down about 10 pianos deep, that last piano is not going to be in tune with the first one. There's going to be some things that are different on the different notes. It's also like a copy machine. One of the things back in the day was you always wanted the original, because if you make a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, eventually it's going to get distorted. Same thing with our repeated tasks, those things that we do in our business that we do every day. We want Michael to do them the same way as Sally, and Sally to do them the same way as Lulu, and Lulu to do them the same as Tyler and Cash and anyone else in the business. We want them all to be the same thing, do the same thing. It also helps with most small businesses that I know of. Again, we're talking small businesses. Is they're people dependent. What I mean by people dependent is I'm a small business owner and I've got Greg over here, and I've got Rich, and I've got John, and I've got all these people, but Greg is my key man. He knows everything inside and out, and I don't know what I would do without him. Does that ring a bell as a small business owner? That is people dependent. That means that you're trying to, like, what if Greg ever left? The sink would ship. The reason that is because only Greg knows certain things. It's also because Greg is possibly so diverse in the company that when the reason the small business owner is frantic or scared or fearful of losing Greg is because he knows so many things. and there's no way we could replace Greg. If you have a Greg on your staff, you are people dependent. If Greg is your key man employee, or you have a key woman employee, and they were to leave and your business would operate as usual because someone else knows how to do those tasks, it's possible that you're process dependent. It could be that you're a little bit more systemized than most. But most small business owners that don't have SOPs, they're reliant on certain people to stay around forever. So SOPs can help eliminate that problem of being people dependent and turn you into process dependent. So like I said, most small business owners, they say, I do a million things. I don't even know where to start. And for one, the video tutorial here is how to write SOPs. Just start with anything. If you're a brick and mortar, let's start with something that you do every day. Brick and mortar companies, they open for business and they close for business. So let's open our business. Let's start with that. We want to keep it at 5 to 7 steps. If you're not a technology company, I know those can have some very robust instructions. We don't want it to be we don't want to teach them how, let's say, I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here. Let's say that you're hiring for an accounting position. We don't want to teach them the steps of how to run or operate QuickBooks. They should already know that. Okay, we're not teaching them a system or a platform. We're teaching them how to do things our way within our business. Back to the opening and closing of the business. For one, if let's say you have 4 doors on every side of the building facing each direction, which door do they come in to do the code? Some businesses, it's the back door. Some it's the side, some it's the front. Well, if I'm a new employee, I don't know which is which. Unless there's a big sign in the front, I'm going to assume that's the front of the building. I actually have some businesses that I've worked with before where the front of their building is not where the sign is. The big sign is on that side of the building because it's where the heavy traffic flow of cars go by. The front of the building is on the opposite end. So we can't always assume that that someone's supposed to know where the front of the building is. That's not always the case. So on this particular step, I would say enter building on the south entrance, south door. If you have 2 doors on that side of the building, southeast, southwest, whichever door it is. So we already have our first step. Enter door southeast corner. Step number 2, do we turn on lights? Do we open blinds? Do we turn off the alarm system if you have that in your business? That would be step number 2. Now, we don't have to we're not teaching them the alarm system. We're teaching them the steps of how to open the business for business. Step 1 is enter this particular door. Step 2 is turn off alarm. Step 3 is turn on the northeast corner lights in the lobby. If you don't want the warehouse lights on, don't put that for that person. That could be the warehouse operating procedures. Number 5 could be, or 4 or 5 could be, which blinds to open. I have a business. I've referred back to this before in another video. I have a business where they don't like certain blinds open in the morning because it makes the lobby hot. So they leave certain blinds closed until after lunch. And then they do just the reverse. They open the other blinds and they close the ones that they open for the morning. Those are standard operating procedures. Anything else that goes. As you can see, that's maybe 5, 6 steps. Anything deeper than that, it needs to be another SOP. So if you were to document that SOP, all of a sudden, everyone now knows how to open the building for business. If you were gone for the week, someone else like myself, if you were to give me your SOP, I could go open your business for you. Doesn't that sound wonderful? I have business owners that open and close their business every single day for years because they don't feel like they can trust or anyone else knows how to open and close their business. And I'm like, let me see your SOPs. I don't have any. Well, what's your problem? Well, this keeps happening. And I'm like, does everybody know that keeps happening? Well, I've mentioned it. Let's go back to our copy of a copy of a copy. How did you mention it? Did you mention it the same way? All of us, number one problem I keep saying number one problems in small businesses because there are a lot. But one of the biggest problems is lack of communication. The way you tell this person how to do things, you might have forgot to put in that certain detail with this other person, and maybe that's why they don't understand. So, how to write SOPs is start with the ones that you do frequently. After you have 3 or 5, let's start making some departments. Let's say that one SOP goes under accounting. Let's say another one goes under warehousing. Let's say another one goes into the retail shop, counter, marketing, whatever it is. Start departmentalizing those procedures. Now, this is a very simple process for small businesses, and it will get more robust. It will get more complicated as you go because we want it to. I always say, don't keep your single processes to 5 to 7 steps. Don't write a novel. Only have about 2 layers deep. So if you're going to have accounting as a header in one of your departments, maybe put accounts receivable and then all the SOPs underneath one of those. But don't do a lot of folders with a folder with a folder with a folder. The more clicks that an employee has to click through, the more problematic it's going to be for them, time consuming, and just a pain in the rear. We want to make these things easily accessible. That kind of goes to my next point. If we were to put them in a folder, or let's say a binder. Now, if you're a small company, that might be fine for now, but I highly encourage and suggest for you to find a digital way to document these, whether it be on Google Drive or some kind of platform that stores SOPs for you. Because if it is in a binder, let's say that Michael takes it home to revise, say he gets sick. Next day, we have a new employee starting. Guess where the SOPs are? With Michael at home. Let's say he's gone for a week. So now we can't train for a week. There's lots of reasons why. Or maybe Michael left it on the copier in the building next door, or maybe they got wet. So we really want to find a universal way to share these with our employees. Now, if you are ready for a little more robust system, I do highly encourage you to check out this book. This is a good friend of mine, David Jennings. This book was forwarded by Michael Gerber. And if you've heard of Michael Gerber, he wrote the E-Myth. It's now referred to most often now as the E-Myth Revisited. Same book, better information. But if you know that he forwarded this book, you know there's some good stuff in here. David Jennings, in systemology, he has a client, well, he calls it the critical client flow. So his methodology of creating systems and processes is to kind of start with the customer. Like, how does the customer come into the business? What are some of those processes? How do jobs get entered? How do jobs get invoiced? How do jobs get delivered? How do we retain clients? He kind of goes through the whole, which I think is brilliant, because if you don't have a client or a sale, you don't need any processes. You don't have any, because you don't have anybody to do business for. So check out that book. Also, check out our YouTube channel while you're here. Subscribe, like, engage. We would surely appreciate that. Share it with others. We want to help as many small business owners as we can. If you have any questions on SOPs, feel free to reach out to me. We have a link below that has a link to my calendar. Have 30 minutes free consultation with me. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very active and influential over there, and I look forward to sharing with you more information.